So I managed to burn up my soldering iron. Had it for maybe 6 years. Totally my fault for leaving it on and leaving the room for too long. So I went to AliExpress and I bought new solder sponge, soldering iron with a removable tip. And what happens is you unscrew this, you lift off the shield, and you take the tip. Now this is the tip. And that's a pretty nice tip in terms of a point. Kind of like it. Kind of like that the tip's replaceable. Went ahead and picked up a pack of ends. And there's 5 different ends. I think this one's a little narrower than this one, the tip. But for different things. I would much rather have had a pack of 5 that was a single point. That's what I use 99% of the time. I like to have these other ones, but I'd like the ability to order 5 or 10 of these because who knows how long they'll manufacture these and if those tips will be available. That's the problem I ran into with my old one. I burned up the tips. I can't replace them. I can find no source for them. And it is adjustable. It looks like it has 300 to 450. Okay, so Sunsur is the name, 100 volt, 60 watt, ESD safe, so you shouldn't have to worry about electrostatic discharge, but I'm not sure how they managed to do that. It comes with this safety tip, which is actually a little difficult to get off. I have no use for that. I'll never use that again. So I got my old soldering stand. I bought these, I'm pretty sure at Radio Shack years and years ago. I think that's where I got them. It's possible I got them at a Hamfest somewhere. It's so long ago I don't even remember. So I just kind of wedge that in there. And you'll see that baby in action. So I turn it on. I obviously don't need these for the first time, but I bought a couple of these Pixie kits to play with. I got one of them built and went to experiment with it, and I thought, I really need a receiver and a transmitter to go with it. So I thought, hey, I got that. I'll just build another one. They're on the same frequency. So before we get started, I always keep 2 types of solder around. And to tell you how long I've had these are Radio Shack solder. I bought 2 rolls of this very thin solder probably 20 years ago. And I've used up one of them and I still have this one. I used the thicker to tin the irons. When you first get these, you need to tin the end. I'll turn that up. So you want to tin the end and then wipe it off. Now, when a soldering iron sits, it gets what I call scale. That solder will overheat, oxidize, and get a scale on it, and that inhibits heat transfer. So every time you start to use it, you should tin the end. And if you see the end getting dull, see how shiny it is? If you see the end getting dull, it's time to tin it again. And that's why I use this thicker solder. This is a lot more expensive and I only have so much of it. I have a spool, but it's still only so much of it. So I use the larger to tin the ends. And I do this to all of my soldering irons. The other one I left on and left the shack for a day. And I came back and the end was burned up. And it uses a special end that if it overheats and you leave it like that, they tell you it will run the iron. So I wiped off all of that solder, so I want to put a little back on. Just wipe off the excess. So let's put the socket on. There's a 386. You want this, it has a notch. And you want that to match the notch on the board. And turn it over. Now you can usually bend the ends a little. So once you put it in, lay it face down. This is one of the jaw liners that I took off because I keep melting them. And I'll do that so that it sits level. So I've got this. The tip looks okay. It doesn't look great. So we'll put some solder on it. There, it looks good again. So I've got 8 connections, and I'll start on the corner here. one pin. Now notice I'm holding the board down until those two cool. Now I don't have to worry about it coming loose. And if I check it, it's seated good. And I just need to do the rest of them. So now that I've got that, I know from experience this is one of the best angles for me to use. So you just start across here. You just want to use a little bit. If you can see the pad, you don't have enough solder. If you can see the pad, odds are you got a good connection. So there we go. I'll always check what I've done. Looks good. So there's first use of the soldering iron. And I want to tin that. Cools off fast. And unplug it. Now the next time I come, I should have solder on the tip. So just let that cool off. And there's a review of this soldering iron. Now I paid $3.35 for it. I paid $1.19 for these. So for $3.35, I went ahead and bought two. Bought them from different sellers, seeing if there was any difference in the way they were. And they cost about the same, within a nickel of each other. But I got two of them for $3.35. If they last me a year, throw them away after that. I wouldn't be upset. Of course, I want them to last, but for $3.35, kind of okay with about a year's service. So there we go. Nice new soldering iron with tips for about $5. So if you like the videos, please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.